Let me show you some dross that was spread last year from so-called games analysts. Do you want to see it? Pure Xbox writes this. Major game maker reportedly questioning Xbox support amidst falling sales. Now, this is very interesting because many people ran with this stuff. And it was very interesting to see how this permeated the market. I say this right now at the heels of Claire Obscure Expedition 33 having launched on Game Pass and sold 1 million copies, and also Elder Scrolls, the remaster Oblivion, also having over 200 plus million concurrent users on Steam. Now, this is very interesting because what this person said, when you kind of think about it, they did say it in a way that, you would have thought, well, obviously. However, what they did not present to you were the complete details that showcase that this particular Game Pass strategy is one that really does hedge the developers who put their games on Game Pass from the potential downsides of poor sales. Appearing on another episode of the Outlets, microcast, spoke Dring, so this is Chris Dring, spoke about GDC 2024. What did he say? He was claiming that some game companies are starting to question whether it's worth it for them to continue supporting Xbox consoles, a comment that he basically put out there. And some of the discussions about Xbox that cropped up at the conference. Drink says that multiple game makers, including, in quote, one major company, are beginning to question why the team bothers porting to Xbox. The phrase one major company who released a big game last year said, "I don't know why we bother." The podcast segment on this particular topic was clipped and posted to social media, so we'll drop that down if you want to listen to his comments. Ladies and gentlemen, let's reminisce. Let's see what he was talking about at the time, because when I looked at this video, I said, okay, who was this person? Because this is what's called an anonymous source. Before we even watch it, keep in mind that Drink came out to tell us that Xbox Game Pass releases can reportedly expect to lose 80% of premium sales. What he didn't tell you, though, was Phil Spencer had already explained how a lot of these developers, they do deals, and basically, depending on the deal that they basically go ahead and, put together, many of them can protect themselves from the downside risk. An article that Steven Totillo, Eddie Makuch, wrote about that was on The Verge a while back. Now, let's go back and listen to this particular commentary and see if Mr. Dring actually knew what the heck he was talking about. And he's been in the industry for a long time. I don't know where he got all this from. I don't know who may have planted this bug in his ear, who that publisher was. But I can say it's quite interesting that he ran with that.
I heard it from a very prominent company, and one not so prominent, was Xbox's performance in Europe is just flatlining. And you can follow our monthly coverage in the games market. You can see that Xbox sales are falling, and it's been falling. It fell all throughout last year, and it's falling even harder this year. The phrase "one major company who released a big game last year" said, "I don't know why we bothered supporting it." Wow. And it's we mentioned on the previous podcast, we'd heard that retailers in Europe were considering or had already been cutting back their Xbox stock on their shelves and whether that, hardware games, that kind of thing. And now you've got publishers, third-party publishers going, this is we're putting a lot of effort trying to create a Series S version and an X version of a game, when, to be honest with you, for us the market is PC and PS5.
Yeah.
And with Xbox putting some of the games on PS5, from what I understand, the majority of them will be coming across at some point, assuming it progresses as Xbox believes it probably will. I think Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer, and that was the thing that came out of GDC for me, because I always just thought, I've always been the belief, it's the Game Pass delivery system. It's good, it's got a good UI, it's got a good controller. It's it's, if you like Xbox games, it's probably the best way to play them, etc. I thought it would be fine, but then I didn't really factor in that some developers and publishers might just go, "Yeah, I don't." And
if only he could see this day. You see, when I watched that video, I said, number one, those developers, that would have said something like that are absolute morons because many of those developers already know that the gaming market is already saturated. So if they abandon their publication of games on Xbox, they open room for other developers who would want to get in on the Xbox ecosystem. Right now, there are already 6,000 games published. 6,000 games published on Steam. So if they're looking and saying, well, Steam is where the market is and all that, they have to go in there and fight that saturated market. I've seen some people say, well, a lot of these games on Steam, are basically asset flips and shovelware and blah, blah, blah. What you don't realize is there are PC gamers who actually play this stuff. That's the thing that many of you don't realize, and they're cheap. You bring out your $70 game and someone's like, nah, I'm going to go buy a freaking pencil writing simulator for $10. Really, you act like gamers are not going to spend money where they think or perceive that there's value. Now, not every game will have big sales after having gone, to Game Pass. But a lot of these games are actually proving one thing. The quality of your game does not affect, anything in terms of the subscription side of things. If it's a quality game that gamers like, they will buy your game. In many cases, they'll engage with your game. We saw Oblivion Remaster. That's a legacy game. Then we also saw Clair Obscur. What's funny is a lot of people were saying this game coming out with Oblivion was going to mask it and outshine it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's a turn-based RPG. It already has a Game Pass bag. If we look at the facts, it's already basically gone ahead to secure itself from the downsides in terms of the risk. They have nothing to worry about. If they made a quality game, the game is going to sell. And the game did sell. Lies of P. They enjoyed something very similar. A developer coming out of Korea needed the bag. They took the bag. And they made money as well because their sales actually did hit. These parameters in the whole conversation, I think, need to be assessed every single time. And I think a lot of analysts, when they were bringing out these, making these statements, I think many of them failed us. Many of them failed us. The moment that they decided that they were going to, go ahead and start to harp on so-called whispers around the industry, they failed us because they did not analyze what the industry was actually doing to game developers, sans Game Pass or even sans Xbox in any position that it was in. Now Xbox is like, hey man, these same developers, I guarantee you, they're looking at Xbox going, okay, what are you guys cooking? Because Xbox looked and said to them, hey, I don't know if you guys saw the chart that John Welfare put up on his Twitter post a while back where he was putting some stuff from GDC, where Xbox was showing developers and saying, hey man, this is our ecosystem here. A lot of people play our games on mobile. A lot of people play our games via TV. They play our games via cloud streaming. If you want to jump on in there, here's what you can actually expect to enjoy via Xbox's ecosystem. Cloud streaming growing more and more. People just basically, dealing with the flexibility of Xbox. This is why they went to this year, the GDC and showed this is what's going on. So a lot of those developers that were coming in that GDC that Christopher Dring was talking about, many of them did not have the data to understand what Xbox's ecosystem was capable of. Now they're looking and saying, what? Those Xbox Series X and S consoles that actually stream cloud are basically almost similar to the amount of smart TVs, if not less. Then in the side of the Series X and S consoles that stream on cloud, you can look in the orange side and see that smart TVs are basically almost equal. So if Xbox can cop a market of devices that is very, very ubiquitous, the smart TV, the Kindle, people, they were laughing. I said the Kindle. People were laughing at the Fire Stick, ideas. Other desktops, other devices. Xbox has an active user base that surpasses what any console can physically reach. And analysts failed to actually take this into consideration. They've removed the hardware barrier by saying you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox games. If you want an Xbox, you can still get one. And then they've lowered the hardware requirement barrier by saying if you don't have any hardware that can play our games natively, You can stream our games from hardware that you have available to you. How does any publisher look at that and say, we don't even know why it's worth it to put our games on Xbox? Because Xbox has cleverly said it where, oh, by the way, before you can do the game and put it on the cloud, you got to go through the console. They're not stupid. And so it's a chess move that makes everything an upside for everybody. They looked and said, hey, look at our consoles. It's not the most appealing thing, but look at our active user base. You can't ignore that. 500 monthly active users is what they get in their engagement paradigm. That's insane. That is insane. Dwarfing their competitor by almost 4x. If you think that this gaming industry is going to sit there and progress and anybody's going to make money by traditional console sales, you're dreaming. There are only like 3 games that make it every year with traditional console sales on the Xbox, PlayStation, PC side. GTA, which will come out once every 10 years, Call of Duty, some big RPG like Baldur's Gate 3 or Hogwarts Legacy or Cyberpunk, and that's about it. And then everything else is working on Nintendo's side in that reality because they basically locked nostalgia down into that particular area. But people are already talking about how easy it is to basically, those games. Ooh, that'd be interesting. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.